All right, now after months of speculations, anxieties, politicking, and denials, among others, Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, finally declared his interest to run for the office of the president come 2023, which laid to rest the insinuations in many quarters.
Now that his intent is officially known publicly, some Nigerians have been wondering what the vice president meant by continuity of Buhari's legacy, as critics believe even the economy that Professor Osinbajo oversees is in shambles. Now this and other issues will be on the front burner this morning, and as we are being joined by public affairs analyst Dayo Akintobi. Thank you so much for being here, Dayo Akintobi. We'll also be looking at the insinuations, statements, points that have definitely been made. It's good to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
All right. So let's begin with the economy. But before we do that, there's a clip that would like to play to you, Dayo. I want you to watch this clip, and let's, on the heels of what you're about to see, we can discuss further with this question that I do have for you this morning.
If you take on the speech of Yemi Osinbajo yesterday, you see that he categorized his speech into 4 places. He talked about the economy as his strength. He talked about the idea of his servanthood or loyalty. He talked about his participation in security intervention. Then he also talked about the idea of continuing on what President Muhammadu Buhari started. Believe me, in the coming days, when we begin to interrogate that, you will find that Yemi Osinbajo may not even be near Asiwaju. And let me just give you a graphic example. The economy, which happens to be the strongest strength of Professor Yemi. You know that that is the only aspect of governance that the Constitution devolved to the Vice President. But let me tell you something. Throughout these 7 years that Professor Yemi Osinbajo piloted the economic affairs of this country, we had unemployment rose from 9% to 35%. Inflation ran from 9% to 25%. The dollar jumped from 197 to $1 to 580. The fuel from 87 to 162, and the GDP declined by $41 billion. And anybody who knows President Buhari knows that this man, when he gives responsibility to you, he does not interfere.
So that was Daniel Bwala, who joined Village Square earlier this week, and we still have you here. So on the heels of that video, what you just saw, let's begin with that area, which is the economy. Now, Vice President Osinbajo is the chairman of National Economic Council since May 29, 2015. Now, how could he be absolved from the current and friendly policies, especially now that he has declared his intention to run for president?
Well, first and foremost, I don't quite really understand what you mean by unfriendly policies. That's a misnomer as far as I'm concerned, because in the last 7 years of this administration, every single economic policy and intervention that this administration has implemented has been towards the goal of providing succor, prosperity, and improving the lives of everyday Nigerians. Now, for the sake of argument, let's even say you meant unfriendly economic environment as opposed to policy. I would even argue with you about that, to the effect that not only is the economic environment not unfriendly, it actually would be much more unfavorable to Nigerians if this government had not deftly handled the issues that have buffeted the entire world since the inception of this administration. First of all, let's talk about 2 key issues. In 2016, there was a global recession which caused oil prices to drop. There was militancy in the Niger Delta, which caused shut-ins in terms of the production of oil. We reduced from our daily production capacity of 2.2 million barrels a day to just about 1 million barrels a day, which is a 50% cut in the amount of oil we were producing and exporting to generate foreign exchange. Now, the government, with some deft financial and economic interventions, managed to pull us out of that recession in 2020 very quickly compared to many other countries around the world. Now, as we're just starting to pick up from that, We get hit by the shock of COVID, which of course, as you know, we had no control over. It caused lockdowns across the world. It also affected every other country in the world as well. Now, what did this administration do to address the COVID issue? Of course, we know it did things like the Economic Sustainability Plan, which came out of this National Economic Council that you say the Vice President chairs. Now, that ESP program, well, first of all, let's even address in 2016, there was a Niger Delta vision that was also led by the Vice President, which quelled the restiveness, addressed the issues, stopped the militancy, and enabled daily production to increase, as well as also bring back greater revenue into the coffers of the government. So now let's talk about what COVID did. When COVID locked down the whole country or the whole world and basically stymied all economic activity, what did this government do? It came about with various economic stimulus programs, something called the Economic Sustainability Plan, which found ways to inject funds into the economy through medium and small scale businesses. It gave support to farmers for agriculture. It gave support to, it even gave social support to the most vulnerable in the country through conditional cash transfers. I'm sure you've heard of market money, trader money, and all these various social programs that the government undertook. Why did they undertake those? The quickest way to get out of a recession is by providing money that people can spend. People need to consume, need to have money to spend, to feed, to clothe, to pay school fees and do all these other things. And when the lockdown happened, people didn't have that income with which to be able to carry on daily lives.
Okay, so David, Dio, I beg your pardon, I would like to come in at this point, because while all these words, they sound really fantastic in paper and in speeches, in theory, the average man out there, when he compares how much he has to buy Gary 7 years ago to the price of Gary today, all of this was saying translates to nothing for him. When the average man outside knows that the price of pure water 7 years ago was 5 naira, and today, that same sachet of pure water, 50 cl sachet of pure water, goes for 25 naira today, all what we're saying goes to nothing. When he tries to go into the market to buy tomatoes to make stew worth of 500 naira, and today he cannot afford that, all of this that we're saying goes to nothing. We're talking about the situation of things for the layman out there, for the man who is on the street, who is trying to earn a living, for the man who is a barber, who used to have a shop where he did not have to use generator, for a man who today, as we speak, that barber depends highly on the generator to earn a source of living, a legitimate living. What we're saying and what we're talking about will seem to make no sense to him at this point.
It makes a lot of sense when you contextualize things. If you look at things in isolation, it may not seem to make sense. But first of all, Nigeria is not the only country suffering these woes. If you look at countries like the UK, the US, Ghana, South Africa, all of them have upward inflationary trends, even as we speak today. My argument and the point I'm trying to make to you about that common man on the street who is complaining about the price of petrol and the fact that pure water prices have gone up, what I'm saying is this. If 7 years ago, pure water cost 5 naira and today it costs 20 naira, if not for the intervention policies of this administration, this 20 naira that you think is excessive would possibly be 40 or 50 naira. What I'm telling you is that the economic policies of this administration have reduced the potential impact of the shocks that have not been the responsibility of this government.
All right, so Akintomi, I need to come in here. Let's look at the insecurity situation, because the current president, that's Muhammadu Buhari, as at 2013, May 2013, came out and publicly declared that the then president Ebele Goodluck Jonathan should step down because he's incapable of handling the insecurity situation in the country as at May 2013. Now we're forward now to 2022 this time around, where the Northern Elders Forum, they've come together and they've told him point blank that you need, Mr. President, please, you need to step aside because it seems you're incapable of handling the insecurity situation in Nigeria. Are we saying karma is back?
When this administration came on board in 2015, the Boko Haram problem was so extreme to the extent that 13 local governments in Borno State were under the control of Boko Haram. Now, this government has decapitated Boko Haram and rendered it almost useless. It was this government that killed Shekau, who was the highly feared leader of Boko Haram. Now, now that Boko Haram has been rendered almost ineffective, we now have this banditry and kidnapping problem, which is a systemic type of insecurity that is not amenable to brute force, because they use guerrilla warfare. It's a new type of onslaught and insurrection that we're just beginning to adjust to how to defend against it. For example, I think it was Governor Rufai or somebody recently who said the problem is when you bomb them and you sack them in one place, they run to another state. So what is needed is a holistic coverage of all of the territory where all the forests are, where they have their activities, so that they have nowhere to run and hide. Meanwhile, this government has spent the most amount of money on reforming our security apparatus. They have spent money on not just Super Tucanos.
Permit to comment there. You do also realize that the Minister for Transportation as well, Rotimi Amaechi, had made mention that he said they spent a lot of money, but Rotimi Amaechi asked for a certain type of security installment for the recent attack on the Kaduna-Abuja railway track, and it wasn't done. Aside that, I'm sure, very sure that you are aware of what happened to those who were actually kidnapped and those who were killed. So it makes me wonder if I want to believe we're in the same country and you can also see what's going on before we can say that Boko Haram has actually been incapacitated. Aside that, let me also ask you this. Yomi Osinbajo is saying that he wants to continue in his statement, continuity. Can you help us understand what that continuity could mean, in what context? Is he trying to continue what we have now, or is continuing something new?
Well, first of all, our hearts go out to the victims of not just the Kaduna-Abuja train attack, but to everyone who's been a victim or been harmed or maimed or lost loved ones by virtue of any acts of terrorism in this country. Our hearts go out to them, and we pray for succor for their families and their loved ones. Now, having said that, what Vice President Yemi Osinbajo is saying in terms of continuity is that the things that are beneficial to the people of this country that this administration has been trying to do, he will continue them. There is no gainsaying the fact that there are some measures that have been put in place by this government that are having a tremendous impact in terms of the fight against insecurity. Take, for example, just yesterday was announced that the United States has approved $1 billion worth of military equipment, additional military equipment on top of the Super Tucanos, which this government has been negotiating with them for quite a while. It has finally been approved. We will get all that equipment. The president has also approved, I'll say this, that he has approved something called a needs assessment of our security architecture, which means he has authorized a complete review. And guess who he put in charge of that review? None other than the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, because he has implicit faith in the ability of the Vice President to get to the root of a problem, proffer proper solutions, and carry them out. So when you say continuity, what I want you and all of Nigeria to understand is that, yes, when he's talking about continuity, he's saying the very policies and interventions of this administration that have had beneficial effects for the people of Nigeria and that have been in the national interest, he will carry them on. That is not to say that he will not initiate new policies of his own. Yes, there's got to be continuity in the things that are good, but he also, as his own man, will come in with his own ideas that he will also pursue for the betterment of the Nigerian people.
All right, Akintobi, I need to come down to this because we are down to the very last seconds of the show. Now, in a sentence or two, what are the chances of Vice President Yemi Osinbajo when he's expected to slug it out with the likes of Bola Tinubu at the APC primaries?
Well, the chances of both of them are good because they are both titans and they are both formidable, and the best man, the point is they will both put their best feet forward and they will compete on a level playing field, and the best man will prevail. For me, I believe that the more people participate in the primary process, the better it is for Nigeria, the better it is for our democratic process, because competition breeds excellence, and competition lets the best rise to the top. I will tell you this from a personal perspective. a Yemi Osinbajo presidency from where I sit, I personally believe, and borrowing the words of the Declaration of Independence of one of the very great countries in this world, a Yemi Osinbajo presidency will be dedicated to the proposition that all Nigerian citizens are created equal and they are endowed by the Creator with the unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, with malice towards none and charity for all. That, in a nutshell, is what Nigeria can expect from a Yemi Osinbajo presidency.
All right, last question. Last question. I know we said we're down to the last second, but one last question. I mean, you were just asked what you think about both of them. That's Bola Ahmed Tinubu and, of course, Yemi Osinbajo running for the same ticket. And you are indifferent. You seem to be indifferent on whoever gets the ticket, meaning that either of them is good. However, let me ask you: don't you see a sense of betrayal in Professor Yemi Osinbajo going for the same ticket?
Absolutely not. We can't pander to sentiment in terms of when we are looking at what is in the national interest. I think that it would actually have been a betrayal of the Nigerian people and a dereliction of his duty if, as the sitting incumbent vice president, he did not throw his hat in the ring. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't even believe all the hullabaloo about Asiwaju being bothered about the vice president throwing his hat in the ring. I think he will be proud of the fact that one of his proteges or one of the people that he mentored has actually made it to the second highest office in the land and is now aspiring for the presidency. I think it's a credit to his political sagacity. And the thing is, if you look at the career of Professor Yemi Osinbajo, from when he started out as a special advisor to the Chief Justice of the Federation, Bola Ajibola, when he was 31 years old, Vice President Osinbajo is a self-made man who became a professor of law, a son, and a special advisor at such an early age based on his competence, his capability, his bold vision and his ability to market that vision, his impeccable character, his confidence, and the fact that he is somebody who feels the pain of the people. He has empathy towards the man in the street in Nigeria. And you know that if and when the will of the people give him the reins of leadership, you know he will do the best for this country that we have seen from any leader in recent times.
All right, I want to say thank you so much, Public Affairs Analyst Dayo Akintobi, for joining us here on Breakfast Central. It will really look good, and it will be nice to have you back again so we can try to dissect some of these issues ahead of the presidential election come 2023. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great pleasure.